Okay, so what we did previously, what we did was demonstrate some isolation things on preliminary hand techniques without follow-ups and really without conditions. So what we're going to do here is I want to demonstrate what conditions that you want to set for yourself when you're practicing these things that are not based on a certain type of strike. So if Doc is here and he's going to punch me, switch to your left side. So when he goes to throw a punch, and it's not a jab, it's just a big punch where he steps right through that and punches. So he's throwing this punch like that, see? So if I'm trying to parry this, that's not going to work. If I'm trying to tight cover this, that's not going to work because he's going to knock my structure, right? If I'm trying to Gunti this, that's not going to work because the punch really has no form. And that's why I talk about in the beginning, informal movement. So what I've got to understand now is I have to create the conditions for any one of my techniques to be successful. So when I have that big punch, what am I doing? I slip to this outside. Now I have a position. So if he throws a rear hand now, I can just intercept it and punch him, and then I can go into any number of techniques that I've already developed. Okay? So when he throws that big punch and I step right here, and you see the position I create, if I try to get in front of that and try to do anything, and this is what gets people who study Wing Chun in a lot of trouble, because what they have a tendency to do is try to build da, okay? And when I build da, if I'm set with my feet right here, that's not the right structure for that technique to be successful. People say the technique is unsuccessful, but you're just trying to use a boat in the middle of the road, okay? So when he throws that punch, see, the technique is more successful. What did I do? I slid my right leg back, and I turned my body, and that put me in line to use that technique successfully. So really, in order to use your techniques, your cover and hit, your basic parries and stuff like that. So when I go like that, see the parry is light on the hand because he's going to throw that other punch, and I should already be in movement trying to cut him off. So you don't want to be here trying to execute a parry when that punch is really, really poorly thrown. So you get beat by someone who doesn't know anything because you know too much, really is the key. And I've seen this in so many different scenarios where people who have martial art training are not able really to even defend themselves against somebody with not only no training, but somebody who is actually terrible at fighting, throwing punches that are just totally off balance. And the key, the problem is that in martial art we have a tendency to want to do something about the punch or block it or cover it, when in reality sometimes better just to step out of the way and throw a couple of punches of your own. So this formalness of parry, right, catch, and all those things is going to really be straight out the window. You've got to kind of do it informally. Just kind of push them like that. That is pull, okay? But I'm executing it kind of outside of the normal understanding of what that technique looks like in dry fire. And that's something really I feel like I went over this. What do I teach at this level? I went over this many, many ways, and I had a structure lined up, but really I felt like just stacking on more technique and more structure is really counterproductive because you're probably never going to use it against that structure. So I feel like all of the curriculum and technique that you have from red to gold is sufficient for you to practice technical elements. And now we're giving you some preliminary technical elements, and we're talking to you about how to put those into practice. Because that's really going to define you as a martial artist at this level, is whether or not you understand what it takes to deploy it, what it takes to make it effective. And one of the biggest things really here is my movement. So when he goes to punch me, that I'm moving. That I understand that this movement, right, that's why we say don't move backwards. But if I move back, I got to understand. See, I use the hand there. I know he's going to punch again. So that's when the sliding technique will come in, because I position him where he has to reach across his body to strike me. And I was talking about that. You have to understand your center line. You have to understand central line. I have to understand that when I do this technique here, that's no good, because he's going to land that punch, especially if he's throwing 2 punches. See, I'm going to eat that. But if I went like that, see, that technique now can work. Why? Because what I did is I created the environment for it to work. Okay? So really what you have to do here is take into consideration your footwork is going to develop. There's your split entry now. It's on the second motion now. Okay, your footwork is going to develop. That's not a good time. But now your technique of cover and hit is right there. Okay, so as I move that, that's like a parry. See that? So as I move out of the way of that, that's my parry. Okay, as I move out of the way of that, that's right on this side. That's just the sliding thing. And you can see now that punch is going to intercept it with that strike or that finger jab because of my position. And those are the things really, I want you to take all this information, practice all this, get good at it, and then put it into play against someone who just throws this punch. It doesn't even have to be anything eloquent. It just needs to be something that penetrates the airspace. Okay, something that really will uproot you if you're standing in one place. So throw me a jab up. So when he throws that, see how that split entry works? Now throw me the other punch with the step through motion. Same thing. Yeah. So when I go like that, you see, yeah, I'm going to hit him, but his bodily force is going to knock me out balance. So that technique is not going to work so good. It's probably going to leave me lying on the floor. Maybe I hit him. Maybe I hit him good. Maybe I didn't. Either way, I'm knocked off my structure, and that's not a good thing. So when you're practicing these things, practice it as if you're practicing it against a guy who knows how to punch, knows jab, cross hook, uppercut. Practice it against a guy who doesn't know how to punch. That's probably more important. But you have to learn it a certain way. So you need a structure, then you need informal. You need a tuxedo, you need a business suit, and you need workout clothes, and you need casual clothes. You can't just walk around everywhere in a tuxedo. It's like you're wearing a karate gi. You're going to wear that out every day. You don't wear that every day. That's a formal costume, right? So that's not something you're going to use in your daily life. Okay, so we're going to give you some ideas now, just on some things to practice. And this one falls into the category of a person who is not necessarily a trained fighter, isn't necessarily inexperienced, but they're not really going to give you a fair fight. So a lot of times, this person is going to punch you in the side of the head. So it's really difficult for me to do, right, this technique. It's really difficult for me to do cover and hit because the angle of the punch is not, we're not starting off face to face. He's in fact deceiving me. So when I have this kind of thing, first of all, I got to be cued in that there's something about to happen. Because if you get surprised, you're already surprised, right? So then covering would be kind of the only thing that you could possibly do. And that might be the case in some situations. But I want you to put your mind to work here because you're already graduated to gold belt level. So you've already practiced these preliminaries to the level that you have skill in them. So now we want to imagine if this person is attacking us and they're not giving us a face-to-face attack, then the number one first thing I have to do here when he punches is move my body. Okay? So if I can learn to move my body, I can put myself in a position. So I might move to the inside of that, just throwing a punch. Okay? I might step back out of the puncher's way. Okay? Another thing you might do is just kind of duck and just go underneath. But this is a problem. You're going to lose visual, and also the person may overrun your position and knock you down. So really, this is why I like this technique. If he goes a punch, I just turn. That puts me to the inside. and that gives me my base of fire strikes. If he goes to punch, I just kind of step back. That puts me to the outside, and that gives me my base of fire strikes, including all my access to my sweeps and throws and strangles. When he punches, I'm probably not going to parry this, because the angle of attack on that parry is not going to really work, okay? However, I may suntokahn it, and then I have my follow-up technique like that. When he punches and I move this way, you see I may suntokahn it, which is going to bring his hand down. So again, out of form movement, okay? Out of form movement or informal application of technique requires creativity on your part. It requires a thought process and an understanding, a base set of skills that you're going to execute in a real-time situation. And sometimes it's as simple as you can make it. Other times it's more, it requires more complexity. If I understand he's going to attack, maybe that technique is just putting my hand in the way. And this oftentimes is frowned upon in martial arts. As he draws and I strike him first. Okay, but we understand that there's going to be a larger percentage for you, your survivability in that situation, if you're willing to strike the person before they strike you or in the middle of their strike, as opposed to waiting for the strike to come and then covering it and then trying to answer, which we call a defend and then hit, or we call a riposte. If you have the riposte mindset, you're going to find yourself on the back side of most things, because you're thinking about receiving the energy of the opponent, dealing with or dissipating that energy, and then attacking in time after that. And that's just really not good tactics. It's really poor understanding of tactics for any kind of conflict, okay? Whether you're talking about warfare or whether you're talking about a simple street altercation, which really shouldn't be allowed to happen. If you have a good sense of yourself, you're not going to run into that situation. However, you can be put in positions where those things are going to happen to you without your permission. If you're pumping gas, if you're purchasing something at a store, if you're just in some kind of situation you cannot extract yourself from, then you have to fight. However, in that situation, when he attacks me, it's better for me to punch him. And there's no technique in this list right here that says step sideways and just punch him in the face. Okay? There's nothing on any curriculum there that says if the person pulls his fist back, slug him in the mouth. Okay? Or take a newspaper and smack him. Or take your finger and put it in his eye. So if he pushes me, I just put my finger in his eyeball. I don't have to go, right, and do a wrist lock. I don't have to do something formal. When he goes to touch me, I just stick my finger right in his eye. That's not in the curriculum guide anywhere, pretty much in most martial arts systems. So it's the systemology that attracts customers. It's not understanding of combat application. So that's why I wanted to put this in at this level, because in the beginning levels, you're not going to really probably accept it. But by this level, you should be really ready to understand, hey, I know this many things. How do I make this many things work? Because if Doc throws me a good boxing jab, I can split entry that. I can line that up and get position on it for a groin rip or a bicep. If Doc throws me a good jab, I can Gunti that, right, and then move to the outside and go arm bar, shield, and do Purta Kapala, right? However, when that punch comes from this angle, it's really not an opportunity for me to split entry that. I might get a backhand Gunti, but even because of my position, the looping nature of that punch is going to cause that technique to be a bad decision. So in that case, it's better for me just to kind of turn and put myself in a position to leverage against his second attack, not even really answering his first attack. And that's something that I feel like is more important than teaching you technically 1,000 more things. Really, I don't really feel like that will be important if you really don't understand this level of application. So that's kind of the thing I want you to put into consideration. If I have a vertical gunti, that is not going to work necessarily in that position. But if I sidestep my position and put my elbow like that, see, now I have a position. I can get the groin, I can turn the face, I can punch him. I can put myself in the right position to make things work. Okay, so this is something that I don't really feel like can be taught technically. It has to be practiced by you with different training partners, and really use your imagination and think of anything that you've seen happen, anything that you've seen happen, anything that you've heard about, anything that you view in video, anything that may have happened to you. I have enough of those things that usually I don't have to use my imagination too much. However, it's up to you to kind of take this thing and grow with it so that it's really become something that everything you learn now has an application to it, instead of just being technical elements stacked on each other. Okay, so the next one now, we're going to go back and we're going to just look at a couple of technical elements that I want you to practice from a couple of different points of view. So number one, if he throws a punch, right, and I'm going to gunti this, see that? So I gunti this and my hand, in this case, doesn't pass through, it stays here. You see that? So when I hit this and then I just bounce right into the eyeball like that, okay? So that's the gunti on that. And if I parry here, and then he punches with that hand, see the gunti like that appears here. So if I gunti this, it's right here. If I do a gunti here, then I can split entry it there. You see that? If I parry this, I'll probably end up with a gunti and then a bounce off on that line. And that's going to lead to a follow-up series, okay, of strikes that already in your preliminaries, right? I mean in your base of fire strikes. So when I do that, that gunti bounces off, whereas most people's gunti comes through. That's okay. That's what we did in the first 4 levels, right? So you strike here and then you back this like that, okay? But if I strike here, see, I just ricochet off. That is a little bit faster, see, okay? Because if he's throwing that second punch, a lot of times that's process interruptus. In other words, he's getting thrust in the eyeball because he punches. Okay, and then the other one is I do that and see this hand goes in. So I make the gunti, see, and that hand slides up. So you see my position outside? That's where the hand's going to roll like that. See that? And sometimes that hand slides up. You see the back fist is already there. So if I have the trigger, and I have the trigger, see, that's already there. So that's a couple ways you can practice that inward gunti with the hidden stick. I just use that reference. So if I go like that, see, and you can practice that like this. See that? So if I clap my hands and just push it out, or if I clap my hands and then follow the line. Then if I parry this and I clap my hands and push it out. Or if I parry this and I clap my hands and follow the line. That's a couple of ways to practice the first, what we call hit and stick, and then stick and slide, okay? So you can execute those techniques like that, off a jab and off a jab cross, okay? And it could be parry, jab again, gunti, jab again, here, parry, jab again, and then, right? So that's what we call a 1-2-1, or a 1-1-2, okay, or a 1-1-1. I really can't demonstrate every single one of those possibilities. That's why you have to come and really spend some time with me and train, or get a training partner, videotape yourself, message me, ask me to watch a video, or Doc, or one of the guys will look at it and give you advice on how to adjust your position. Okay, but we understand that when I go like that, you see my position? I'm just taking that outside line like that. If I go like that, see how I just touch the hand, and that's going to set up that position there. So it's really by position and angle that I'm able to make the technical element work. The technical element does not stand alone. It has to be applied through understanding of tactics and strategy, okay? So the next one I'm going to do is a combination of 1, 2, where I hit and stick this, and he throws the second hand, see where I go into cover and hit? So as I gunti that, see when he punches, I haven't even made the thing, and you see where that gives me position? And that allows me to use any of my base of fire follow-ups. So if we just reroute this over here, if he throws the right hand, see where I hit this, and then see this sticks to the thing. See that? When he throws that, you see where I hit here, and I hit here, and I hit here, and I drive him off base, and then I could throw my follow-up punches. And this one might already be en route when he punches, and that goes right through his eyeball, and it's virtually the same technique. But one, this hasn't begun its progress yet, and that becomes cover and hit. You see how this slides? That could turn into any technique that I really want it to be, okay? But you're going to need the strangle, throw, sweep, and lock thing, and you're going to need the pathway to the body, and you're going to need the follow-up strikes. Practice those separately, then combine them, and you'll be actually able to pull it off. So that's the same thing. When I go like this, and he withdraws the same hand and throws it the second time. See, then I end up on the inside of that. So if he goes like that, see my movement? See, that's going to set up the hand wide. Because my movement is here, see that? So the hand has to go wide. So it's just like kind of Bugs Bunny in the Roadrunner, see that? Okay, so this hand, I'm moving away, the hand stays in its own space. When he withdraws the hand, he really is going to run into that. So sometimes we call striking in the negative motion. And you can see how that hand is already there. And even if he throws the 2 punch, see that's already going to be happening. So really, you don't have to really worry about number 2. You're going to beat by feel. See that? When he retracts and tries to throw 3, see you're already there. So that's how you can initiate that in different things. And that could be jab, jab, hook. It could be jab, cross, hook. It could be jab, cross, uppercut, hook. Whatever you do to get there, practice it from not being here or here and doing it, okay? Get there from different points of view, different possibilities, and this will make the technique functional to you, okay? So that's the inward gunti, what we call hit and stick. Okay, so what we're going to do now is the backhand gunti, right? So the backhand gunti that doesn't pass through but sticks. So the first one, when he throws that punch, see my backhand gunti lands here? When he throws the second punch, see I just move, and the backhand gunti is used again. So if I go backhand gunti to backhand gunti, usually it puts me in that position. So if he throws the other hand first, backhand gunti, watch the motion. I step, I turn my body, and that lines up that structure. I drive him off, and then throw my punches, right? Okay, so when I use the backhand gunti, see where I stuck to it? And see how that is just sinawowing. 1, 2, 3, okay? So it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Move him, and then 1, 2, 3, right? Or 2, 3, 2. Okay, so backhand gunti, stick to him. Backhand gunti, follow up. Okay, and again, practice that in varying degrees. So now this one is the one that you're not supposed to do. But if he throws that punch, see, remember I talked about the parry moving to the inside? So now if I parry and hit that, look where that hand is. It's going to get absorbed by the inward gunti. See that? So I use the backhand gunti, see that? And it sets up that inward gunti, which is going to lead right to any of your locks, sweeps, throws, strangles, right? So you see what I'm doing here? I'm stepping the wrong way. But what I've created is the environment for that inward gunti to work, and then the backhand to follow up, right? And then the crow's foot or tiger's mouth to rest on the pressure point of the neck. So that backhand gunti is used, okay, and backhand gunti here. See that? Move him off base, throw the punches, right? But you already have. That's your responsibility. I cannot really repeat that on every video. So your responsibility is to upkeep and maintain the 5 previous levels. This level is to give you understanding about how to apply the first 5, and then give you different aspects and elements to practice on your own and get good at those.